We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, if you love everything in college football, subscribe to our channel, smash the like button if you like our content, share the video with your family and friends. If you want to support this college football's Rebel Outpost, the true home for the college football sickos, with a donation to help us keep the lights on, hit that $sign where you make your comment, and I'll get to super chat as quick as I possibly can. Welcome in, everybody, into the studio that sits on the corner, the very corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to become a legend with your comments and with your phone calls. So we've got a old Big Ten SEC standoff when it comes to the college football playoffs. What is the format going to look like? It sounds like, according to Ross Dellinger, and we are going to get into this, despite the pitches from the Big Ten athletic directors of a 20-plus team CFP, the Southeastern Conference athletic directors this week in a meeting did not consider formats beyond the 16 teams. The Southeastern Conference and the Big Ten must agree before a new format is adopted. Standoff. The standoff means 12 teams for 2026 as written last week. They did an article last week. All right. We're going to talk about this. We are going to talk about it. First of all, let me point to, for many is the obvious. For some, they don't quite grasp it yet. But for many, everybody in the PATC family, the line right here, Southeastern Conference, Big Ten must agree before a new format is adopted. I'm going to repeat that one more time. And some of you are going to be saying, great, that's obvious. Great. What are you doing? You're already ruining the live show, Greg. You're already ruining the live. Usually it takes you about 25 minutes into the show before you ruin the show. But you're doing it right off the bat. SEC, Big Ten must agree before a new format is adopted. So it's not like the transfer portal. It's not like the transfer portal. Remember the transfer portal that is going in the January 2nd to January 16th window? It ain't like the decision making on the transfer portal where the Big 12, the ACC, and the SEC all agreed to that transfer window, and then they got other votes. They got other support from the other conferences within the new governance rules, right? It did not matter that the Big Ten, the evil empire, the Big Ten was against that January 2nd to January 16th transfer window. Because the Big 12, the ACC, and the Southeastern Conference had enough support to pass it without the Big Ten's vote. Governance rules, college football playoff rules, the LLC, is completely two different things. I am still getting people saying, wow, the new governance rules, Greg, the new governance, everybody's kumbaya. But no, it's two completely different things. I don't know why some people that can't get that through their heads. My gosh. And this is gonna be one of those things we're gonna talk about today. Some people they go so deep down into their information silo that they cannot see anything out of it. Once they have determined what they believe is to be true, they lose all curiosity on what is possible. So anyway, I just wanted to focus on that. The governance rules and the CFP and how it's decided are completely two different bodies, two different processes, two different ways. All right. Now, going back to that. The Big Ten athletic directors, again, pushing for over a 20-team playoff. Once again, wanting to have a larger AQ format, automatic qualifying format, right? That's what the Big Ten wants. The SEC is happy with this 12-team playoff, and I'm as well, but they want to have a 16-team playoff where it's 5 plus 11. And the Big Ten, as of right now, is saying no. Now, Laura Weiss, this is what happens when you have two conferences have control over everything. They don't. The transfer portal, The Big Ten's vote did not matter because the Big 12 and the ACC and the SEC overrid the Big 12, the Big Ten. And when it comes to the college football playoffs, if the SEC and the Big Ten agreed, they would have the power to make the changes. And the Big 12 and the ACC signed off on that. We're going to get into it, guys. Helmer Henderson, Super Chat. Very much appreciated, sir. Thank you for starting us off. Helmer Henderson, you did not mention Notre Dame as one of Carter's 5 teams for expansion. Oversight or not seen as a long-term member of the Big Ten. Well, if they called, the Big Ten would accept them, right? It's not really an oversight. It's kind of, I probably should have mentioned them, but they're going to be on the Big Ten expansion candidate list until that big rock, until the end of time. So I probably should have mentioned them. Other than Notre Dame, should have been what I called it. Thank you for bringing that up, Helmer Henderson. Thank you for the $5 holler. I very much appreciate it. So, what am I babbling about? What am I babbling about early this October 31st? This not being able to agree on a larger, expanded college football playoff format is most likely delaying any of the large domino pieces from falling. I'll give you an example. Earlier today, after this Ross Dellinger statement that it looks like, there's no agreement, there's a standoff, there's a Big Ten SEC standoff. This is what I wrote. Standoff continues. 12-team. I'm sorry, I had to move my box, and I'll show you why in a second here. 12-team, 5+7 for 2026 is becoming the bigger chalk. It looks like for 2026, it's going to be it's going to be the same playoff as this year. And if that's the case, P2 conference expansion in the near term becomes less desirable. It doesn't mean it absolutely rules it out. It becomes less desirable. The SEC, if it remains a 12-team conference, you're going to have a hell of a problem getting enough votes to include 2 to 4 more teams in your conference. Okay? 12-team, 5+7 for 2026 is becoming the bigger chalk because of the standoff, which means in the near term, the P2 conference expansion is becoming less desirable, which means you go down another layer, the Southeastern Conference targeting UVA becomes more difficult with impending governor election results creating changes inside the Virginia's Board of Visitors dominoes. The later the Southeastern Conference acts on Virginia, the bigger fight they're going to have to get Virginia. I'm going to repeat that, and I'm going to go over why this is so important. The later the Southeastern Conference acts on getting Virginia, the bigger the fight it is. And the fight might become too big. Unwinnable fight for the Southeastern Conference. Now, I know a lot of you, I get it every day, almost every day. I got it yesterday. I'm going to get it today. People kind of laugh at the notion that Virginia is being targeted by the Southeastern Conference. I am perfectly fine with whatever opinion you all have. You've all let me know, and you're going to keep letting me know, and that's why we have this large national college football YouTube channel. And I appreciate it. Put down your comments in the chat, in the chat room. Give me a phone call. Let me know that there is no way the Southeastern Conference would waste their time targeting Virginia. I'm going to happen to disagree with you. A door was opened to us here at Peek Around the Corner. We made a big old live show June 15th of 2024, reporting that North Carolina and Virginia were the number one targets of the Southeastern Conference and of the Big Ten. If you push off Notre Dame for a moment, I got raked over the coals, which is fine. That's what I'm here for. But then about 6 weeks later, Brett McMurphy, at that time on Action Network, now with On3, made a huge article basically saying that he did say that Virginia and North Carolina were the number one targets of the Southeastern Conference. Before my live show on June 15th, 2024, there were plenty of public reports that North Carolina and Virginia were the number one targets of the Southeastern Conference. Plenty of them. Pete Thamel, Heather Dinich, Dennis Dodd, Brett McMurphy, before I made my June 15th, 2000. When the door was open to us on this, we were told that the Southeastern Conference wasn't keeping this a secret. Everybody knew about it. And the reasons why they're targeting North Carolina and Virginia, I have tried to explain. They want a bigger footprint. They're the student apocalypse, demographics. They want a more diverse demographics. I happen to think the Southeastern Conference is probably going to do a bigger scoop than just North Carolina and Virginia. But who knows, right? Who knows? The point is, and I'm going to get to it in a moment here, Super Chat. $5 holler, Helmer Henderson. You didn't mention, I'm sorry. So by dragging things out, college football play-wise, the Big Ten could get their hooks into Virginia. If that is, yes, in theory, the longer it drags out, the better chances that the Big Ten could get Virginia. If that is what they wanted at that time, like, you know, if a couple of, yes, in theory, yes, absolutely. The Southeastern Conference ability to get Virginia becomes a whole lot harder the longer this goes. Remember, they need to get a permanent president. And we were told that's going to happen in December. We'll find out. And then they're going to have about 5 months to act. And then the political winds, the Board of Visitors are going to blow strongly against the Southeastern Conference. Which leads me to this. People have asked me over the last couple of months, especially in the last couple weeks, Greg, why are you covering this story the way you are? Why are you opening up the Holy Smokes Theater and having some schools here, some schools there? The next time you open up the theater, you have some schools here, some schools there. Why are you covering the story the way you are? I am going to answer that question, and I'm going to give you an example of how I covered a story back in 2022, which was a complete opposite of this story. But it's going to give you an example. First of all, as I have said over and over and over again, nothing is done, nothing is settled. It isn't. And people get very frustrated by that. I haven't closed the door on any possibility. I've given you the top targets for the conferences, the positioning. I had a story yesterday. A door was swung wide open with me, and I was told that basically there's one faction in the Big Ten, and it's called the Ohio State faction. The reason why I keep bringing up this stuff and why it's different. The reason why I brought up the Virginia Tech, Virginia administrator, Virginia Tech money perch, North Carolina money perch. The reason why I bring this up is because if I'm going to give you the most accurate peek around the corner that I can possibly give you, you've got to understand what is happening on the ground. And to do that, you cannot be consumed with what you believe to be true. You cannot be in your own information silo and not let any of the noise or any of the light come on in. I cannot tell you how important that is. I have got a million examples of why that is important. When this whole thing started, we said this ACC drama, the next disruption is going to be something else to see. There are going to be many turns in the road. There are going to be 1,000 different variables, politically, economically, relationships, money, conference personalities, leadership. There are going to be so many different things that's going to push this thing all over the place. You've got to keep your curiosity to even have a chance of getting this, to give you the best peek around the corner. I'm going to give you guys examples. And today, we are going to take a trip down memory lane. We're going to go all the way back to August of 2022. We are going to replay an old episode of mine. I look a lot younger. I'm a lot more skinnier. My voice was just as bad as it is now, unfortunately. But all that being said, we are going to go back in time in how I reported, how we broke down, how we reported the USC to the Big Ten story. I think it would do everybody well for us to listen and watch that again, because there's a very important lesson in that. But before we do that, I want to talk about what has happened more recently. What has happened more recently? If you remember, October 20, 2023. No. October 20, 2022. When Brett Yormark got the deal done with Fox and with ESPN, that was October 30th, 2022. Excuse me. When the deal was done, I came on here and I said that Brett Yormark hit a grand slam. Hit a huge grand slam, and the Pac-12 was in trouble. In February of 2023, I think it was February 24th of 2023, I reported for the first time that I believed that the Big 12 had a better than 50% chance of poaching the Pac-12. I was absolutely hammered for saying that. Now, I changed the odds back and forth as information rolled in for months, but I always had the Big 12 as the chalk to poach the Pac-12. Why was that? That was based on information that I was receiving in like 3 or 4 different ways throughout the weeks and months. The information was consistent. The Pac-12 couldn't even get a media deal in front of their presidents for them to even vote on because they were getting horrific offers. My reporting of the Big 12 being able to poach the Pac-12 was based on consistent information that I was receiving. It wasn't based on bias. It wasn't based on because I hated the Pac-12. It wasn't based because I loved the Big 12. And I was open the whole time. I was open to new information. If somebody would have said to me, Greg, I think the Pac-12's going to get a deal and it doesn't look like the Big 12's going to poach the Pac-12, I would have reported it. I would have not had any problem with it. You had other people at the same time with those beautiful charts, with their beautiful education, claiming that the fat guy from Minnesota was grifting and gaslighting and leading his Big 12 followers. It's not a Big 12 channel. And that I was completely wrong. Even making fun of my when I talked about UFOs once in a while. And they could not see the light. They did not know what was happening on the ground. They could only show you charts saying that look at these Pac-12 universities, look at these Big 12 universities. There's no way the Big 12 could possibly poach the Pac-12. There's no presidents, there's no chancellors. It would never happen. But they did not know what was happening on the ground. They chastised Dennis Dodd. They chastised Brett McMurphy. They came up with a big conspiracy that what was that consultant group that was advising the Big 12, that we were all paid off by that consulting group. The fat guy from Minnesota, John Kurtz, we were all paid off. But here's the truth of it is, I was reporting on information that I was receiving. I received some information on April 28th of that year. I knew that the Big 12 was planning on having a meeting with Colorado. I could not say it was a meeting. I said it was a hot bubble of action. And I gave a date range because I could not give out more detailed information than that. But I gave you the best peek around the corner that I could possibly give. So day in and day out, I kept saying, there's a hot bubble of action. There's a hot bubble of action. Colorado's at the center of the stage. And then the meeting did happen on May 7th in Chicago. It actually did happen. It was 90 minutes long. On May 8th, we did a live show, and we said the Pac-12 is hanging by a thread. It got a shot in the solar plexus because we were told that it went pretty good and that Colorado was setting up a major whale meeting with their whale money perch on May 24th in Newport, California. We had all this information. I had to keep giving it to you in a responsible way, but in a way that gave you guys the best peek around the corner. But I was consistently open to the fact that we may have new information coming on in, and I may have to give you a different peek. But it kept going, and eventually on July 27th, I believe, I may have that date wrong, Colorado decided to announce that they're joining the Pac-12. Okay. That whole thing. The reason why there were these really smart people from Wharton College and their followers, the reason why they got that story completely 100% wrong, and where none of us are infallible, the reason why they got it wrong is because they had no understanding of what was actually happening on the ground. The charts did not explain it. Their biasness put a wall up between them and what was really going on. They lost their sense of curiosity. And then what had happened? When the Big 12 did poach the Pac-12, suddenly it was, well, these are horrible leaders in the Pac-12, horrible. And they never said, well, I got it wrong. And the fat guy from Minnesota, he might have been on something or onto something. They never did that. And I'm just going to touch back to what's going on right now, and then we're going to go back in time. We are going to take a trip down memory lane on what happened in 2022, the spring and the early summer. But what is going on right now? If you are not curious on what is happening on the ground, then you're not, and it's very difficult. It is very difficult. Nothing is done, nothing is settled, things can change. But if you're not interested in knowing what is happening on the ground, you don't have a shot at this. You do not know truly what is happening. And that is why I spend so much time talking with people on what we're trying to figure out, what is happening on the ground. Charts don't impress me much. Even history doesn't impress me much because things are changing so fast. What interests me is what is happening on the ground. Now let's go. Sorry, has been, but I'm trying to explain what I'm doing now by going back and describing how we got it right in the past and how other people got it wrong. It's a trying to understand what is important and what is not. So it has been, this might not be the show for you. This channel might not be the channel for you. Because I've got so many people telling me, Greg, this cannot possibly happen because of this, and this. That's cool. That's fine. But what I'm trying to explain is what is going on the ground. There's a reason. Okay, no war. Okay. The ground is still fertile. Thank you, Numbskull News. Let's go back in the time. Has been, you can turn this off. You'll be okay. You'll be okay. All right, let's go back in the time here. This is me trying to explain the USC to the Big Ten. The story that we had covered, this is sometime in August of 2022. I am going to play this. Yeah, I think that's about the best I can do there. Okay. Let's jack that up there and go here. And we're just going to listen. This was episode 22, August of 2022. This phone call on March 31st, as I put down the vacuum cleaner, I'm in the car because it's cold outside, and BTM is rambling on this long story. He really caught my attention when he said, Greg, by the way, we want you to put out a couple simple tweets on USC tonight, and be prepared that you are going to be bookmarked by the Big Ten, by an official in the Big Ten. Of course, my reaction is, you're crazy. Who cares what I tweet out? Yeah, people follow me, entertainment purposes only. We've broken stories on Twitter before, at Minnesota 247, but nothing like this. And no one's going to care that I said what I tweeted out. I'm an absolute nobody. Right? So, but he said, be prepared for it. So, I put out a couple tweets, and let's get into the tweets, and let's get into the story. Okay. This is my first tweet at 8:37 p.m., March 31st, 2022. I put out a bomb emoji here. USC is watching. New Big Ten media evaluations have come in during current negotiations. We will discuss tomorrow. Everything Trojan is back on the table. Now, I did not put any details of that conversation into this tweet. And I did that on purpose. I just simply said USC is watching. And I'll get to why in a second. The next tweet at 9:27 p.m., March 31st, 2022. And now USC is watching Big Ten's media negotiations, which will result in a massive new media contract. USC is watching. Trojans back on Big Ten table. I showed another tweet that I put out on July 18th, 2019, which says SEC is about to get paid massively. Bidding war on SEC's Tier 1 football is going to be historic. Oklahoma and Texas are watching. For years on Twitter, for those who've been following me for years, and at Minnesota 247, we got all sorts of information that Oklahoma and Texas, again, from big money people, right? That Oklahoma and Texas were going to keep their exit ramps open. They were not going to sign an extension on the grant of rights for a new contract in the Big 12. They were either going to call SEC or they were going to call the Big 10. They called the SEC. Greg Sankey took the call, and we know what happened there. Okay? Now, this was March 31st, 9:27 p.m. I did my job. I did what I was asked. I did what I was instructed to do. And nobody put out a couple simple tweets. At 1:13 in the morning on April 1st, my phone lit up. I happened to be awake. My eyes were open. I was laying on my side of the bed, and my phone was on the end table. The phone lights up. I look at it. It's the source. I look. My wife is sleeping next to me. I sneak out of the bedroom, go to the living room, talk to the source. And he says, Greg, we have made we've captured a screen cap of a picture of a Big Ten official is now following you. I said, you're crazy. Why would someone follow me? Why would someone bookmark me? That was the term he used, bookmark. Just because I put out a couple of tweets. But they prepared me for it, or they told me this was going to happen, and it did. At 5:28 in the morning, I woke up, I took a picture of this, of them following, of this Big Ten official following me, and I sent it on to credible, reputable media companies. At Minnesota 247, at USC 247, and I sent it off to Jeffrey the Greek and Big Kurt at All Eyes on Big Ten podcast. I continue to do that, by the way, from April 1st all the way to the end of the story. Every time I would put something out in USC and Big Ten, I was followed. I was tracked. Even with people I was having a conversation with on Twitter, my fellow nobodies, they would be followed, bookmarked, tracked for about 24 hours. This happened 7 times. The first 7 times. I'll get to the 8th and 9th time here. And every single time I was tracked by the Big Ten, I took a picture of it in real time and sent it off to credible media people. So, let's get to the next tweet. On April 1st, we'll pick up on where we left off last night in regards to USC being back on the Big Ten table tomorrow on April 2nd. I do not want to confuse anybody of the tweets of USC Big Ten with April Fool's Day. Eventually, soon, the story will be picked up by big media. I was absolutely wrong on saying this, and I should not have said this at all. Not only because it ended up being wrong, because the Big Ten media did not pick up on it. I should not have said that because the goal of the people who was telling me the information that USC called Big Ten, they called them Big Ten alone, was they wanted this to happen. And the reason why the Big Ten was tracking me, they wanted this expansion to happen, the Big Ten people. The Big Ten was tracking me in all communications on social media was because they didn't want to be Houston chronicled. You remember Houston Chronicle broke the news that Oklahoma and Texas were leaving for the SEC before Oklahoma, Texas, and the SEC wanted that information to be out. So here I am. We're walking a tightrope. The big money people, there were people that wanted the Big Ten to know that they knew there was an opportunity to bring USC on. And the Big Ten did not want this to be Houston chronicled. But you got to remember, where we were on April 1st isn't where we are now in August, third week in August, in regards to Kevin Warren, the perceptions of Kevin Warren. There wasn't the trust that maybe Kevin Warren would pull the trigger on USC. There was money, big money behind this push. They wanted Los Angeles, the city, to become a Big Ten city and USC to become a Big Ten university. And they wanted Big Ten officials, the Big Ten Conference, to know this. And that is happening now, by the way. So at this time, again, for the people who's just joining us, this is a episode 22 that I put out, I think in August of 2022, explaining the story of USC to the Big Ten in the reporting through that spring and early summer that we did here. And again, it's happening now. Then it was the big money perches were pushing the USC to the Big Ten. USC money perch, they were the ones that leaked it to the Big Ten money perch. Everyone's gathering, all that money, all that influence, all that power. They want to have this happen. And none of the media was picking up on it. Today is the same thing. but it is absolutely splintered, right? You've got big money people representing programs on the Big 12 and the ACC, and they keep pushing, trying to say to the SEC and the Big 10, this is what we're willing to do. This is what we, so what is happening now is 100 times more complicated, more splintered than what was going on in 2022. And even this, most people did not believe me. I mean, I was getting, just because USC was so far away from Big Ten country, why would USC lead the Pac-12? They're the leaders of the Pac. A lot of good reasons, right? But again, what I was trying to explain in 2022 and what I'm trying to explain now is what is actually happening on the ground. Okay, back to this. Okay, cat and mouse, cloak and dagger. It was happening throughout this whole process. Next tweet. I'm a nobody. Of course, that was the name of the article in Los Angeles Times. I'm a nobody. So why would Big Ten offices care about any of my tweets? They don't. Except they want to make sure there's not a real leak inside of their offices. I'm not going to get into if there is a leak. Spelled that wrong. But there is a story, USC brewing. Let's see where it goes. Okay? So that was the first set of tweets. Okay. This was my first video on this story. My little peek around the corner videos I do on Twitter. Now we've created a YouTube channel, Peek Around the Corner. USC called Big Ten. Detailed info will be posted later this week at Minnesota 247. Next video, USC watching Big Ten current media negotiations. Big Ten is eyeing traditional and social media communications on possible Big Ten expansion and why. At the time that I took this picture, there's 24,000 views, and now it's well over 200,000 views. So people have gone back and looked at this first video, especially after the Los Angeles Times article came out on what we did at Peek Around the Corner. So basically in this video, I got my ugly mug close to the camera, and I basically said this is why USC called Big Ten alone. We do not know when the USC called the Big Ten. We do not have the date, and we don't know if USC did a third party or a direct call. But we know they called alone, and these are the reasons why. Okay? So basically that was me stating more information about that previous call on March 31st. Again, I was tracked right after this video from Big Ten officials. And every time I was tracked, I forward that information on to credible media companies. On April 5th, USC called Big Ten. I wrote an article, a big post at Minnesota 247. Story is just beginning. And boy, the story was just beginning. USC called Big Ten to explore a possible invite per BTM, the source. Again, if you look back at April 5th, no one had a clue. National media didn't have a clue that this was going on. They were, back then it was like, there's no way, a Big Ten conference wouldn't expand all the way out west. There's so many hundreds of miles between USC and the nearest Big Ten city, which was Lincoln, Nebraska. This is crazy. This is not going to happen. But we knew that USC was exploring it, and we knew there was a lot of people in the Big Ten, the money people, wanted this to happen. April 6th, USC edition part 2, crazy part of the story. This is when I get into the tracking that the Big Ten was making sure this wasn't going to be Houston chronicled. The people that were BTM that was talking to me, they were getting at this point they said, well, we got this out. Big Ten knows that we know, so maybe we should fall back. this is, I think, another video I talked about USC +1, +3, +5 possibilities. That USC +1, of course, that happened, and that was the chalk. That was the favorite, and we talked about that in the next video. And of course, that +3, +5 possibility is now emerging here in August, late August. We talked about all of USC's leverage, sort of like what we talk about Notre Dame's leverage right now, because USC did have leverage, and the motivation behind the release of the info, which we've gone over. So we fell back. We didn't talk much about it. The word didn't get out to the national media, but the Big Ten knew that. Big Ten money knew, so we didn't want a Houston Chronicle. I did what I needed to do. Okay, everything was done. Swarbrick, the Notre Dame athletic director. This is from David Hale, great reporter. This is, I think, from the SI, Sports Illustrated. Swarbrick spoke today about the concern we're getting to a two solar system model here. You have two suns with all the gravitational pull, the Big Ten and the SEC. People are going to have to figure out how to align with one another. I put this out there and I talked about it on Twitter because, it was, Swarbrick also mentioned that he knew that there were other universities that were calling the Big Ten and the SEC to try to get a potential invite. He talked about that in the open. This really made a big news cycle. People thought it was a little crazy, but of course, where we were sitting, it all made sense. Okay?
Ditch your old gross shower head. Shower with Jolie instead. This isn't just any shower head. It is specifically designed.
Let's go back here. June 13th. Right, we're getting close because the announcement happened on June 30th. BTM. So I put out a little excerpt of what he told me. USC's silence on PAC's internal affairs had become so loud, their local press and now national press has finally picked up on it within the last couple of days. They're hunting. The hunt is on. So at this point, and I don't know if I talk about it in this video or not, but at this point, USC 247, Abraham, the owner of the site, major, huge site, USC, he started having podcasts about this. We were shoveling all the information that we got on this to USC 247, and they were trying to get anybody at USC to talk to them. And usually USC would talk to UC 247 anytime they would go out and reach them, right? But USC went totally silent. Again, something, happening on the ground at USC. The silent really spoke to the people at USC 247. They communicated it to me. Something weird was going on. And again, this is June 13th. This is 17 days before the official announcement. Again, I'm just trying to reiterate why. I'm just trying to explain why I do what I do. I spend so much time trying to figure out what is happening on the ground. And this was just another one of those stories. What BTM and his associates picked up on was people were starting to notice that USC athletic director and president, they weren't discussing anything about what the PAC conference was trying to do. What Kliakoff, the commissioner, was trying to do. Rock and Rant, this is a video that I did on August of 2022, episode 22, explaining the story of USC to the Big Ten and how we were reporting it during the spring and the summer. This is a trip back in time, trying to illustrate how important it is to try to understand what is actually happening on the ground. It's almost over. Then we'll get back to live TV. This is a going back in the time. You know, other universities in the Pac-12, the presidents and athletic directors, they were discussing, you know, yeah, we're going to do this, we're going to try this, we're coming together, kumbaya. USC, there was no kumbaya talk. There was nothing coming out. It reminded us of exactly what happened in Texas and Oklahoma. Their presidents and athletic directors were completely silenced months, 3 or 4 months prior to the announcement that they were going to be heading to the SEC. Go ahead and Google it. Google it. You won't see them. No words about Big 12's internal affairs of what they were trying to accomplish. Same thing happened here with USC. And people were starting to pick up on it. I think at this certain time, Pete Thamel of ESPN wrote an article saying how look for a possible big change in realignment. I mean, they were starting to pick up on it. They weren't getting so specific about USC, but they were starting to pick up on it. Here on June 16th, this is 2 weeks prior to the announcement, TU regulations coming soon, elimination of staff limitations, elimination of scholarship limitations for sports such as baseball and softball, massive increase in expansion for athletic benefits, direct payments from school to athletes. This is why USC called the Big Ten. Now, this is back in June 16th of 2022. There was no real national conversation about direct payments from school to athletes. There was no rev share. But this is what the USC this is what the big money people at USC told the Big Ten money perch, that this is the vision that USC believed what was going to happen in college sports. Direct payments from the school to athletes, increased expansion of athletic benefits, and USC needed to get above the revenue stratification line, and this is why USC acted. I put this down on June 16th. Now you're getting reports such as Dennis Dodd today, August 25th, 24th, depending when you're watching this show, this episode, talking about how Big Ten pushing for direct payments from either the school or the university. People are now finally understanding this deregulation. And that's forcing this consolidation. So we wrote this on June 16th. Again, there were 7 times at this point, 7 times where I would mention something about USC and Big Ten, and 7 times I was tracked by a Big Ten official. I say that to you because here's the big one. This is the big one. This is the one time where I had to drink a beer. Okay? More than one. I put out a tweet, and it was like 9:09 a.m. or 9:08 a.m., and I deleted it because I used the word USC in the tweet, and I quickly erased it. I was told by BTM that it was very sensitive, that things were very hot between USC and the Big Ten. So I put, let me rephrase, sensitive time for Kevin Warren and Big Ten. That was at 9:10 a.m. At 9:12 a.m., I was once again followed by a high-level Big Ten official. I sent that off to USC 247, to Minnesota 247, All Eyes on Big Ten Podcast, Jeffrey the Greek, and Big Kurt. I also had sent all this stuff off to John Wildner of Mercury News and a whole bunch of other stuff that I've never shown and I can't show. And I got no response from pretty much Stuart Mandel. Nobody responded to me other than USC 247, and then they had their ways of finding out that this was all real before it happened.
And that made me believe that we were in the final stages. This is the one big regret of this whole episode.
Yeah.
Because
So what happened here is, it still hurts. I put out this tweet, and I was going to put out a video. Remember, we did not have this YouTube channel at the time, and we have to talk. And I was going to, on June 29th, I was going to come out and say, USC, it's happening. And then on June 29th, well, let me see if I explain it here. If not, I'll explain it to you, what happened. Hold on.
This whole story from what I did, what I accomplished, and what I did not accomplish. Because this was the time, again, where I was being told this is extremely sensitive time, but there was nothing that no matter what I say at this point, this wasn't going to get Houston chronicled because this thing was going down. This was happening. June 28th, 11:24 a.m., I put out the tweet. Short Twitter peek around the corner. Sensitive time for Big Ten edition. Video coming out tomorrow. I was going to do it on June 29th. And then life happened. Something happened. Life took over. I couldn't make that video. I wish I would have, because the video I would have said, you don't have to believe me if you don't want to, but I would have said, coming soon, coming soon, coming soon, happening soon. That was going to be my short little video.
My father had a stroke on the 29th, so rushed to the hospital. I was caretaking for him. So that whole day, whatever. It did not happen. One of those things in life that happened.
Because there was this was going down. I wasn't going to stop it. We weren't going to be part of the story, which we didn't want to be. Then on June 30th, John Wilner of the Mercury News said that something to the world has changed. And then I quickly said a word, retweeted back to him, I believe you. I was sitting on the couch, and then it happened. It was announced. We did not know the UCLA information. My phone exploded. BTM called me and was laughing. He just laughed.
Okay, that's about all. Okay, so let me get back to now we are live. Okay. So so that is why I first tried on this live show today. I'm trying to explain why we operate the way we operate here, and why there are some things that I consider really, really, really important, and most people would think, well, that's worthless. And I completely understand everybody else's, or I try to, perception of it. Like, I completely understand why people think I'm nutty. Why do you spend all this time Greg, why did you spend all that time on North Carolina, the Board of Governors, the rock fight, Kevin Guswich leaving to Michigan State? Why do you spend all this time in Virginia? Why do you spend all this time on Duke pushing their big money? Why do you spend all this time on their elements in the Big Ten that really likes Miami? And because it's really important. It is what's happening on the ground. To get this right, you gotta try to know what is happening on the ground. That's where I spend my time. By bad or by good, whatever, that's where I go with it. And it was, again, we go back to the Washington and Oregon thing. We go back to the Big 12 poaching of the Pac-12. It's why we were on track, because we were consistently getting information while keeping our curiosity, and something could change, right? That's how we operate. So going back to what is happening right now, this is not like the Colorado sitting at the center of the stage. This is not like the USC thing. This is not like the Washington and Oregon story. This is 1,000 times more complicated. Nothing is done. Nothing is settled. That's basically my message. There is a few items just recently that I have been momentarily embargoed from talking about. Just recently. And I'm not going to be able to say it today, hopefully next week or the week after. What is going on in Virginia is so important. It is so important. What's going on in North Carolina is so important to this ultimate story of what is about to transpire. It is so important about the college football playoff format. You know, I talk a lot about the college football playoff format. I happen to love the 24-team large AQ model. But the battle lines have been drawn, right? The college football playoff model, going to 12 teams, it changed the regular season last year. It changed the regular season this year. It has made it way more valuable. Congratulations to ESPN and ABC for having those historic high ratings. And by the way, Foxes have higher ratings, but the gap has lengthened quite a bit. But a lot of this has to do with the fact that more games are more value to the fan bases because of the larger college football playoffs. That's just the way it is. The NFL got to figure it out. College football is starting to figure it out. These playoffs are going to expand again. But how they expand, when they expand, what format do we settle on? That is the battle. And no, we're not walking kumbaya together. This is not a governance issue. This is a CFP issue. It's a standoff between the Big Ten and the SEC. They have both war-gamed all this out. The SEC knows the advantages of a certain format, ABC. The Big Ten has figured out the advantages of ABC, of their own ABC. And we have a standoff. And it is the most important decision on how and when this happens, and it affects conference affiliation, conference expansion, the next wave of disruption. There is nothing that has made this regular season more valuable to the media partners. No, nothing has made it more valuable to the media partners than the expansion of the playoffs. Going from 4 to 12 was a blessing for the sport, the student athletes, the media companies, the national advertisers. And what happens next? What happens next is going to be even more impactful. And happen to be the fat guy from Minnesota. I run a national college football YouTube channel. This is Peek Around the Corner. I'm not infallible, as you all know. But for me to try to get you the best peek around the corner, I go for what's happening on the ground. And what's happening on the ground is not a simple story. Every school is looking out for themselves. They are positioning, they are teaming up, they are teaming up with each other. There's history, there's relationships. There's a North Carolina-Virginia relationship. There's a Clemson-North Carolina relationship. There's a Miami relationship with Georgia Tech. There's a Miami relationship with Florida State. There's the media partners. There's the outside money. There is the Southeastern Conference is determined. The Southeastern Conference is determined to push their brand, the Southeastern Conference brand, and their institutions globally. The Big Ten is committed to it, to push their brand, their institutions globally. The ACC, the Big 12, they're all committed to this. So it's not the Oregon, Washington to the Big Ten story. It's not the Big 12 poaching of the Pac-12 story. It is not USC and the Big Ten doing something crazy where the Big Ten expands with the school hundreds of miles away that a lot of people did not believe. My message is, if I only get one thing through today, is that nothing is done, nothing is settled, and don't turn off your curiosity. Don't turn it off. Here at Peek Around the Corner, I have been honest with you. 100% honest with you every single day. I made a prediction on what was going to happen. It was not a report. And my prediction had a 1% chance of happening. That is how unsure I am on what's about to go down. It is very fluid. Again, just the last couple of days, I've gotten more information that is right now is currently embargoed. And I'm going to unembargo that, whatever that term is. And I'm going to be able to, hopefully, I think, be able to report to you what I've just heard recently. All right? That's why I wanted to show you. I wanted to go back into time, show you the USC story. There's a lot more to it than that, but it's what I could release at the time. We've talked about it. And all these other stories that have been broken. You've got to know what is going down, happening on the ground. I'll give you an example right now. I think I feel confident enough to say this. We talked about yesterday, we did a live show about Ohio State, and it's very important. Very important. Ohio State, there's one faction in the Big Ten right now, and that is the Ohio State Buckeyes. A lot of Michigan people sent comments to me yesterday Reagan on me, saying, you're a Buckeye now, Greg. Da-da-da-da-da. Look, Michigan is an incredible university, wealthy brand. I can't say enough great things about University of Michigan. As an academic institution, as a research institution, it has basically held court in the Big Ten for decades. And it might well again here in the near future. No doubt about it. But for now, it was important for Peek Around the Corner to be able to figure out what is happening on the ground in the Big Ten. And it is the Ohio State Buckeyes have the chair right now, currently. They have the voice. They have the votes because they stood up for 14, 15 other Big Ten universities. They were in support of extending the grant of rights, more security, more money for the Buckeyes. But that action has curried them the favor, and it's a faction of one. There is no other faction in the Big Ten right now. There isn't. I deem that really important to pass it on to y'all, knowing that I would get dragged over the coals again. But it is important to know or try to know what is happening on the ground. There has been hundreds of, and again, a lot of these people honestly thought this was true. So I'm not ragging on them. Some people knew it wasn't true, but they wanted to troll the fan bases. But a lot of reports, a lot of written articles, a lot of YouTube channels, a lot of people talking about how this was all done. This has been all settled. That Florida State has a spot in the Big Ten. This school has a spot in the SEC. That it's all been done, all been settled. Schools have offers. And we have continually said to you, it's not possible. It hasn't happened. It's not true. We're going to try to figure out what's going to happen. But none of that is possibly true. It wasn't. Florida State and Clemson did not file the suit against the ACC because they knew what was going to happen. Florida State and Clemson filed a lawsuit against the ACC because they want to find out what could happen. Big difference. Big, massive difference. Georgia Tech, Ohio State. There does seem to be something very serious going on there. And I'm not saying it because it's up on a chart. I'm not saying it because Georgia Tech is having a fantastic football season this year. Haynes King is one of the Heisman favorites. I'm not saying this I'm not even saying this because Atlanta is a big market. I'm not saying this because Georgia Tech was going into the season was the 6th or 7th favorite team out of that big market. I'm saying there's something serious going on because of what's happening on the ground. Big money people, just like what happened with USC. Big Ten, big money people wanted Los Angeles to be a Big Ten city. There seems to be a push by Big Ten money people, some of them being Buckeyes, wants the city of Atlanta. Of course, it's an SEC country, but the city of Atlanta to be partly Big Ten country. That is what's happening on the ground. And I am going to spend time reporting on that in the next couple of weeks and months ahead. That is just one example. One example. I'm going to be tweeting about it. I am going to be talking about it on a live show. Nothing is done. Nothing is settled. But before I said that, here at 5:31 p.m. on October 31st, Halloween, where you guys are ready to put candy out for kids, I wanted to go through all of that, how we've done all these stories in the past. I'm focused on what is happening on the ground. All right, I'm done. I'm gonna open up the phone lines. Finally tune. Are UNC and UVA tied together for sure? They would love to be tied together. They would love to be tied together. When UNC has to talk to somebody when they feel that they need to talk to somebody in the ACC, they go to Virginia first. They don't go to Florida State. They don't go to Clemson. They don't go to Georgia Tech. They don't go to North Carolina State. They don't go to Duke. They go to Virginia first. When we were told, and this was just recently in the last 6 months, when that whole Magnificent Seven thing was created and they were in subgroups together, basically the Magnificent Seven communicated in subgroups. Virginia and North Carolina were always together in their subgroup, while other schools were included. They were incredibly together. And they would give each other political cover, as we've talked about. Now, they're going to end up together. For sure. I can't say that. No, I can't. Thank you, Finally Tuned, for the $5 holla. I very much appreciate it. Nope, I'm not. I'm definitely not reporting that, Sean. So Miami and Georgia Tech to the Big Ten, I'm not reporting that. I'm not reporting that. I think it's very viable, but I'm not reporting that. Jose, thank you so much, Jose, for being a member for 23 months. Holy smokes. My goodness, 23 months. Gracias, Gopher, Godfather, for all your hard work, entertaining presentation, stunning good looks. Jose, you've got very good taste. That's all I can say. You've got very good taste indeed. You are knighted, cloak and dagger. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Maria Hernandez Garcia Flugar. My Wapo, I love you, my boy. Good job. Subscribe to the channel. Smash that like button. Thank you, honey. I appreciate it. Thank you for making my mother dinner, your mother-in-law dinner tonight. I very much appreciate it, Maria. She's let me have this live show because Maria worked hard making a beautiful dinner for the 92-year-old Alabama Crimson Tide fan, the Irish Catholic, Maxine Catherine Roney Flugar. Thank you, honey. Appreciate it. Okay, we are going to go. Let me see if I got... okay. Thank you, Hammer Hennison. Finally tuned, Jose, for your donations. I very much appreciate it. Let's go to your phone calls. Let's go to your phone call, 763-260-1333. There was some news here. Again, this is old news, but this happened after we did a live show yesterday. LSU, Scott Woodward are expected to separate in the near future, and then it happened. Scott Woodward, the athletic director, was fired from LSU. So, LSU does not have a permanent president, does not have a permanent athletic director, does not have a permanent head coach. no president, no athletic director, no head coach. The good news is that LSU, even with all these problems, is such a great job that I think they're going to be okay. But maybe they're not going to be in contention for a top-rung head coach like a Lane Kiffin. Maybe this is going to scare Lane Kiffin away from picking up the phone and saying to his agent, let's take a look at LSU. Maybe, I don't know. But LSU is a fantastic job, so God bless Mama Flugar. Roll Tide just for Mom. I know the Seminole Wind. Rod Nix is not going to be rooting for Roll Tide as the Seminoles hammered on Roll Tide early this year. But yeah, my mother, I do not understand it. It doesn't make any sense. Why my 92-year-old Catholic Irish mother dislikes Notre Dame and loves Alabama. And my mother is a practicing Catholic, all right? Every Thursday, we have communion in her bedroom. We got someone coming in. My mother is a strong practicing Catholic. She's got a rosary in her hand, around her chest, somewhere close to her, every single second of every single day. But yet, she roots against Notre Dame and she roots for Alabama. College football is a crazy, crazy sport. That's all I got to say. Crazy sport. No, I did not take it anything bad. Great. No, my apologies. Wasn't trying to insinuate you were reporting that. I was speaking hypothetically. I have got no problem with you saying that. I was just saying I'm not reporting that. That's not even my prediction. It might change. No, I get it. No problem, Sean. No problem. Nope. No problem at all. Okay. Phone lines are open. 763-260-1333. 763-260-1333. Give us a call. Tulane was defeated by UTSA last night. Holy smokes. Thank you for the reminder, Expedition Greg. Let's take a look at the American standings. I had this ready to go. Let me hold on a second here. Timeout. I got to get this back up to, we got to get this looking better here. All right. Yeah, so it's, Navy has a wicked schedule. Wicked. South Florida, Memphis, North Texas, even Temple, 3-1 has even East Carolina, Kenneth Mainers has an outside shot to get to the American Conference Championship game. It is a wide open race. And Memphis plays a game starting in an hour from now. They play Rice in about 20 minutes. Memphis plays Rice. All right, guys, phone lines are open here. It is a Friday. I know a lot of you are busy. Mama Flugar likes the houndstooth hat style of Paul Bear Bryant. She remembers Paul Bear Bryant. You know, my mother loved, or I should say loves, Nick Saban. Loved him at Michigan State. Loved him at LSU. Loved him at Alabama. She, I don't know. Don't know why that is. Greg the Cooler to Greg the Wapple. again, it ain't going to be Greg the Cooler this week. It's been 2 weeks of Greg the Cooler. We're finally getting back, yes, to Greg the Gold. We're finally getting back to Greg the Gold. Locks, locks, locks. 11 games. I'm at least going 9-2. Easily 9-2. Whoa. What's going on here? What's going on? There we go. There's one thing I wanted to show you all. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, here. Having to do with WNBA. WNBA and the WNBA Players Association have agreed to a 30-day extension on the current CBA just hours before it was set to expire. I'll get to that in a second here.
Call from
Rick?
Rick, can you hold on for just 1 second?
Oh, yes.
I appreciate it. So, again, it's not college football, it's WNBA related, but they've been negotiating back and forth. WNBA, the players don't get paid all that much. The ratings have gone straight up. And in one of the leverages that the WNBA, the Players Association, has is the potential to strike. And I think about, again, I would love to have a CBA in college. I do not completely understand, because I think it's even more complicated than I think it is. But it would be incredibly complicated. It would have a whole bunch of different types of agreements, I think. Different levels of collective bargaining agreements. I would love to have the collective bargaining, but I do think, how it would be mighty difficult for who's ever representing labor to you wouldn't have, it's less likely that labor in college, in my opinion, which could be completely wrong, would be able to band together enough to strike, right? The leverage of striking is very important in the collective bargaining process. And I'm not sure if student athletes coming in and out of college and all different, I don't know if they would ever have that leverage. Anyways, I'm just babbling on at this point. Rick, the floor is yours.
Yeah, on that subject, as long as you brought it up, I think it would be just a total collective bargaining difference. It wouldn't be the same one for the big schools and, whatever that number might be, I don't know, 48 schools, 72 schools, whatever a big amount of schools are. For them, it would be a collective bargaining agreement like Major League Baseball. And then for the smaller schools, it would be a collective bargaining agreement like AAA baseball.
Yeah.
It takes some work, but it's no big deal to accomplish. Not when people want to.
Yeah.
Do you remember how much glee Greg Sankey had when he got Texas and Oklahoma, and then he held the SEC preseason media conference in Dallas.
Yep.
Can you imagine the 18 teams from the Big Ten flying into Atlanta for their media day?
Yeah, I think. I actually think, Rick. Rick, I actually think. I think you're onto something. So, remember what you just said to me about that.
That would be painful.
There is a lot to that. If you're going to go to the Southeast, if you're going to go and you're doing it for demographic reasons, you're doing it to, all these reasons we talked about, Rick.
Plant your flag, yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good, again, Rick, you're onto something. That's a really good way of saying it. You might as well do it in Atlanta as one of your blend. But anyways, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. This is a rabbit hole we're going to be going down here in the near future. But go ahead, sir. I'm sorry to interrupt you. You're nailing things right now. So go ahead, sir.
And if I remember correctly, I'm not that great at history, but if I remember correctly, I think Georgia was the last state readmitted to the Union after the war. But that's a totally different story.
Yeah.
The playoff, CFP playoff. SEC likes 16. Big Ten likes 24. 20 isn't a compromise?
Yeah, I think it is, and I think they can make that work. But according to Ross Dellinger, the Southeastern Conference, I got it up on everybody's screen here. The Southeastern Conference athletic directors this week in meetings did not consider formats beyond 16 teams. So they're not even having discussions about a 18 to 20 team playoffs. Unfortunately, in my opinion.
I say that because keeping it at 12 is cutting off your nose to spite your face. I understand you want 16, and I understand you want 24, but a compromise is a win-win for both.
It's only a compromise if you're also willing to, if the Southeastern Conference is willing to go into the world of AQs, where it's more than just your conference champion that's going to get an automatic qualifying bid. So you have to have that happen as well. It's just not the number, because the Big Ten ain't going to go, oh, let's compromise, let's do 20, and let's do 5 plus 15. The Big Ten ain't going to do that. So the Southeastern Conference is going to have to be willing to accept the AQ world. And as I've tried to argue is, if you're going to do the AQ format, I think 20 is better than 16, but 24 is way more doable than 20 because it gets the Big 12 and the ACC. It's a better opportunity for them to have buy-in to the whole thing.
And then the last question is, would your head coach consider either Maryland or Virginia Tech?
Brian Kelly?
No, your head coach.
Oh, who'd you say, Virginia Tech and who?
Maryland.
Um, I got to be careful here.
No, you don't.
Yeah,
No,
I
you
do.
don't.
Yeah, I do. Yes, I do. Um, you know what? You're right. I don't have to be careful. What the heck? Earlier today, Rick, if you give me a moment here, earlier today,
The post you had on PJ being in consideration.
yeah. I'm gonna put up on the board now. Every day, PJ Fleck is being mentioned by all these different outlets, right? One time was Sports Illustrated, the other time was Pete Knuckles in On3, and now this morning it was The Athletic. I believe it was Bruce Feldman. I could be wrong, but I think I'm about 90% sure that this was Bruce Feldman's article. In the article, it said, and another coach whose name is circulating around the carousel is Minnesota's PJ Fleck, who is 63-42 in 9 years. Fleck has only one double-digit victory season at the school, but his 60% winning percentage is better than any Gophers coach since 1950. And I've tried to argue that. It's just, it's my opinion. PJ Fleck is the best head coach by far in my lifetime. And there's a lot of people wondering what would happen if PJ Fleck got to coach at a place that actually had a football recruiting ground around him, somewhere around him, and, and all that stuff. So, going back to your question, I really don't think that PJ Fleck, if he gets an opportunity and he decides to leave Minnesota after this year, I really don't think it's for another Big Ten job. First of all, that rarely happens, and we just saw that happen with Matt Rule. He don't go to Penn State. I don't want to go down the rabbit hole, but I really don't think PJ Fleck would go to another Big Ten job, one that would be open to him.
Well,
But,
he would go to UCLA.
No, he won't.
Okay.
He was the number one target last year. I reported it. I was right on it. But right when athletic director German was going to go on the plane to see PJ Fleck called it off because UCLA did not have the money. They don't have the money. They don't have the money to pay for coaching staff. They just did not have the money. PJ Fleck said no. And if you notice who UCLA a couple years ago hired, Deshaun Watson, you can see they just did not have the money at the time. No, I don't think PJ Fleck, that could have happened, but UCLA did not have the money. But location and lifestyle and all that stuff, I think PJ would have loved it. I think he was interested until he found out that UCLA did not have the resources. However, getting through all that, I don't think Virginia Tech is the spot for PJ Fleck. I think Virginia Tech, because they're getting in the game early, because I think they're going to be able to get a higher profile name, I think. Okay? But if I had to predict, this is a prediction. This is not a report. This is not a report, everybody. But if I had to predict where PJ Fleck would end up if he left Minnesota, and I'm not saying he's leaving Minnesota after this year, but I'm completely open-minded to it because of things. I would say a couple of ACC schools, not Virginia Tech, but a couple of ACC schools would possibly be able to get PJ Fleck. One of them being North Carolina, if they let Bill Belichick go. If the Bill Belichick things go pear-shaped, those Bubba Cunningham and people around Bubba Cunningham, Mac Brown, they had PJ Fleck on their list to target last time, and I think he'd be back on their target list. The other couple of schools, I think of North Carolina State. If whatever reason they finally decided to separate from their current head coach, I think they would be looking. I think PJ Fleck would be a name that they would call. I also believe that there's one Southeastern Conference school that possibly could have PJ Fleck on their list. If the Kentucky Wildcats let go of Stoops, and if there was a sea change at the athletic director's spot because the current person's been there for almost a quarter of a century, that Kentucky might have interest in PJ Fleck because, again, PJ Fleck is not going to cost you $10, $11 million a season. Anyways, so those are the three schools that I would throw out: North Carolina, North Carolina State, and Kentucky. None of those jobs are open right now, so we'll see what happens. But I'm sorry to interrupt you for so long, Rick. Go ahead.
No, that's no interruption at all. I'm trying to learn, and you're sharing. But I would find it hard to believe he would turn down Arkansas or Auburn.
Yeah, I just don't think either one of those schools are going to be interested in them. And I'm not sure, how do I say this? I've tried to explain this before. I don't see PJ Fleck fitting in culturally, location-wise, in Fayetteville or in Auburn or what was the other one?
That was it. Yeah, Arkansas and Auburn.
Yeah, I happen to not. I would be shocked. I would be shocked. I think Kentucky might work. I definitely believe North Carolina State, North Carolina would work for PJ Fleck. Would North Carolina State, would they find a better candidate? Possibly. Would North Carolina find a better candidate? Possibly. But I think PJ Fleck would be very interested in either one of those jobs.
And he's not a big enough fish for Florida State to go after.
And I don't think he's a big enough fish for Auburn to go after, to be honest with you. There is a lot of interest in PJ Fleck. There is a reason why he's always talked about in all these. Same with Matt Campbell, because you can say what you want about this struggling Gophers football team this year, but whatever. There is a very high consensus that PJ Fleck is a very good coach, and everybody wants to see him be able to go get guys like, and I've said this before, there have been 9, just think about this, Rick, and everybody else. There's 9 football programs out there, 9 of them, who's had a player drafted in the first or second round the last 6 seasons. 9 of them. 8 of them are blue bloods. Your Georgia, your Ohio State, your Tennessee. The 9th one is Minnesota. Everybody wants to find out, what would PJ Fleck, what would he do if he actually went to a place in which there were football players within 100 miles of his university? Because he doesn't have that in Minnesota. I love my state. There's a couple of good players every year, but literally, we don't have football players. To get him in a spot where it's a football school, football players around him, and now he has a chance because he's a great talent evaluator. because that's how Minnesota's been able to keep up board. That's why he's got the best winning percentage in Minnesota since 1950. Let him cook down in the South. Let him cook at Kentucky. Let him cook at North Carolina. Let him cook at North Carolina. Let him go somewhere. That's what people really want to see. What would happen? What would happen if now, on the other hand, if you're going to have PJ Fleck as your head coach, he runs a tight ship. Even though he's a guy who dresses fancy with a tie, wears skinny pants, the guy is old-fashioned as hell when he coaches. He doesn't take any crap. He is a ball buster. He's going to lay down the law, and if you don't like it, you are gone. He's a culture guy to the 100% utmost. And when he comes into your program, if he's going to be the head coach of North Carolina State, for example, if that happens, North Carolina State Athletic Department has to be okay with PJ Fleck, all of his sayings being plastered all over the boards, all on the inside of their athletic village. They got to be okay with PJ Fleck's personality when he comes into a press conference and he's being all positive and he's waving his hand. He's authentic, but you got to be okay with his personality, his quirks, and he drives a very tight ship. You got to be okay with that. He ain't going to let a player play if he ain't going to school. He's not going to let a player play if he's not sitting in the front row of his class with a collar shirt. This is PJ Fleck. So you got to bring that into it as well. But go ahead, Rick.
Yeah, I think he might be able to take in a few years Oklahoma State to the Big 12 championship game and win it.
Could be. I don't know if he's a Stillwater guy. Now, he's more of a metropolitan type of guy. That's why he'd be interested in the UCLA job. He was interested in Minnesota over Purdue. He's a city guy. His wife is a city lady. So you got to keep that in mind as well. I'm not trying to limit the guy. He can go where he wants to go. I'm just trying to, I don't know if he'd go to Stillwater. He might. I don't think so.
Yeah, it just seems like the type of program that he could build upon. Great Texas recruiting, Oklahoma recruiting.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
All around that area.
Yeah.
And for the Big 12, they've got pretty good money by Big 12 standards.
Yeah.
The school itself. Are you doing a watch party tonight?
Probably not, since the football game has already started. It's probably not going to work out.
Oh, there's a second one, actually.
Yeah, but I'd only be interested in the Memphis game. Yeah, I'm probably not going to do it.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks.
I appreciate it, sir. Great call. Thank you, sir. All right, hold on. Phone lines are open. 763-260-1333. 763-260-1333. For tomorrow, watch party. No final decisions have been made. I wish I could tell you guys, I should be able to tell you guys what game I'm doing, but unfortunately, the life that I have, I'm not quite able to do that yet. But I'm looking at, now look, Buckeyes and Penn State, not going to do that game, right? Texas and Vanderbilt. We just did a Vanderbilt game. Arch Manning is a Texas quarterback. Arch Manning is a game time decision against Vanderbilt. But we just did a Vanderbilt game a couple of weeks ago. Not doing that game. Miami SMU. Possibly I might do that game. And then we got the 2:30 games. 3:30 Eastern time. Indiana, Maryland. I just did an Indiana game last week or week before? Georgia, Florida. It was last week. Georgia, Florida. The largest cocktail party in the country. Probably not going to do that game, to be honest with you. Notre Dame, Boston College. Not going to do that one. Texas Tech, Kansas State. Probably not. Not going to do Minnesota. Pittsburgh, Stanford. No. Then we go to the evening games. Oklahoma, Tennessee. That could be the game that we do. Georgia Tech, North Carolina State. Probably not. So, again, this week, I really haven't decided. I believe, I don't know. I might have a scheduling conflict at about 4:30 Central Time. So that might leak into the evening games, and it might hurt the 2:30 Central Time games. So I got to figure it out, but I'm not able to tell you right now what watch party we're going to do. So you got to keep your head on a swivel. You've got to subscribe to our channel and smash the like button. Make sure you are notified. Make sure you have your notifications open up, so when we come on live with the watch party, you'll get notified and you can join us at least for a little bit. Watch the game together. Put down your comments in the chat room in real time. We have a great time doing watch parties. I love them. Look, watch parties, we do not get many people to watch. We don't get a lot of people in the chat room. There are times where I do a 4-hour watch party game and we get like 24 people at max. I get about $4 in donation. I love doing watch parties. So if we can get it done, and I think we can, we're going to get it done. Because I'm a college football fanatic. I'm a sicko, just like you guys. That's why you watch this program, College Football's Peek Around the Corner. USC and Nebraska. I just did Nebraska last week. Now, I may end up doing that game because things, I may not be able to do the other game. I'm probably not going to do that game. Miami SMU should be a good game. That might fit my schedule better. I don't know. I will figure it out. Hopefully you all join, or some of you join us tomorrow. Keep your head on a swivel. Buckle up. Brace for impact. This weekend, tomorrow, watch party, Sunday aftermath show of week 10. And then we go into week 11. Next week should be some drama. As a reminder, our PATC Heisman Watch heading into week 10. Sayin, Simpson, Mendoza, Moore, King, Pavia. And that was not changed at all. It is the same list as it was heading into week 9, going into week 10. That is our PATC Heisman watch list. In the hot seat rankings, Mike Norvell still number 1. Hugh Freeze number 2. Mark Stoops, number 3. Luke Fickle, number 4. And we might have to move him down to 5 or 6, or maybe he'll be off the list here in a little bit. Dave Aranda comes in at number 5. Jonathan Smith, the Michigan State Spartans, who play the Minnesota Golden Gophers tomorrow. And Michigan State better, if they don't win that game, Jonathan Smith is probably in a heap of trouble. Anyways, I want to thank you all for joining us here at Peek Around the Corner on this Halloween, October 31st evening. You can go now and enjoy yourselves. Go to the Halloween parties. But please make sure you take care of each other. Until next time here at Peek Around the Corner. And as always, God, family, Golden Gophers.